Hello and welcome back. This that we see before us is some of my novelty polychylus is what they're known. The summer phals are known as polychylus, and most of what I've seen, some of them are species I have in here. I've just got kind of a plethora of things. I was going to break it up into the species and then the species with a hybrid, and I was like, you know what, just put some on the table and let's just go for it. So that's what we're going to do here today. Let me move some of this out of the way because we are going to start with Balina, Phalaenopsis Balina. So let me move this. I hope everybody's having a wonderful day. I am actually having a pretty good day. Woke up pretty early this morning. I love waking up early before all the noises start and just the nice quiet of the morning, have some coffee, scroll through Facebook. I try to stay off of TikTok and Facebook Reels because you tend to get lost in them because you just keep swiping and then your whole day is gone. So I try to stay off of those. If you also get caught up in TikTok or those Facebook Reels, like you see one and you're like, oh, that looks interesting, and then you just keep going and then you look up and it's 8 o'clock at night and you're like, where'd my day go? That's what I do. So I try to stay off of those. But let's see, this Ballina, here we go. So these two Ballinas I received from Orchid Classics, and I had originally bought a Ballina and another plant. I can't remember what phal it was now. And they were out of stock of the other one, so they sent me a freebie, but they sent me another Ballina. So although I appreciated the replacement and basically a free plant, I would have liked one, you know, a little similar, maybe just a different phal. I don't know. I did email them. What they did with it, I don't know. But they're both in two different setups. So this one here is in a small bark and moss mixture. And you can see she is really growing roots. She's got these roots coming out here. She's got a root coming here. We've got some aerial roots, got some roots back here. And since I've gotten her, and I got her back in September of 2021, all of the polychylus summer phals type that I have, I've had since July. I bought between July and September of 2021, except for I think the Speciosa and one other one that I bought in January of 2021. But it's been almost a year that I've had them. The bulk of them I've had in that July to September timeframe last year, so I've had them almost a year. But this one initially grew this big fat leaf here, and this one here is her latest leaf growth. Now I don't see a new growth on her quite yet. However, she is liable to do anything because she's surprised me with the size of this one. And then this one is in full water culture, and what full water culture is, guys, is I've never let them stay dry. So right now she's in her full cup of water for the week, and then for about 2 days I only put the water to about right here where the bottom of the roots are. So the roots that are in here that look kind of yucky, those are the ones that were on her when I put her in here. And she is, you know what, let me just take her out and we can just look at the roots really nicely and closely. So she is branching off of some of the older roots right here, but at the same time is producing new roots. And once more new roots go in, I will probably cut this one off just because it does build up algae a lot because some of the moss is stuck on there and I don't want to scrub it off. I've tried it with a like a baby soft toothbrush, and that's why it's so full of algae. So I do take this out about every other day and just rinse the roots off and put her back in the water. I change the water once a week, and she grew this leaf right here, and then now she's working on a new leaf. Now she was in the same setup as this one and was doing nothing. So I said, well, I have two of them. Let me just see what I'm going to do with them. So this one hangs on the wall over there. I'll post a picture of where she hangs, and she's fine. This one sits under the Balina lights, and I think this one actually likes it better with less light. So that is something I'm kind of looking into as well. And move those two Ballinas out the way. And then I purchased this Ballina Carua, or Cerula, however you want to say it. This is one I got from Brookside back in July, and I think I was keeping her too wet because she just dropped all her roots rather quickly. She suffered for a little bit. She did grow this little leaf here, and then she grew this one and then didn't do anything for a while. And then I noticed that she's starting to get roots down into the pot. I did move her into a smaller pot. She was in this size pot before, so I did move her in a smaller pot, and I kept her just damp. Like every day I would put just a little bit of water, just plain water. Once I started seeing the roots, then I started fertilizing. And all of my Summerfowl Polychilus type orchids, I don't feed them very high. They get between 50 and 80 parts per million of fertilizer, whether it be the MSU fertilizer or the supplement of CalMag. And I do that because they are slower growers than our hybrids, and so I don't want salt buildup to happen. That's my reasoning behind it. And I use filtered water because the water here, even though I have a water filter that filters the house water, it's still, the pH is still high as well as the TDS. So, excuse me. Back to this beauty here. So now that she is starting to grow, I'm pretty pleased with her. Hopefully she'll continue gaining strength. Now if she does decide to put out a spike, I'm going to cut it because she's not ready. She's just not ready. I don't want her putting a lot of energy into the spike while she's trying to recover from this. I don't think she is, but if she does, I will cut the spike. I won't wait for it to get to a certain budding portion or anything like that. As soon as it's long enough, I'll just cut it. This way she doesn't exert any energy into that. That might be the wrong thing to do because it is said, as Roger likes to say, that you should wait for them to get to budding and almost opening, then cut the spike, which initiates them back into vegetative growth. I'm just going to cut it if I see it. And then this Ballina I got, again, from Brookside. This one is my newest acquisition. She just arrived in the mail yesterday. And this is what she came with, just like this. Now, when she did come, because the way that they packaged, she did come this way. And these leaves were sticking fairly straight up. They are starting to relax. Now, this one here is called the Phalaenopsis Ballina Wild type. And she, according to the website, has been grown from seed. So I am interested to see how each one of the Ballina flowers are going to come out, because even though the two that I got from Orchid Web say Ballina on them, I wonder if they're the same Ballina from the same seed pod, same Mericlone, whatever. See if those blooms look like these blooms. But isn't she gorgeous? Now she sits on, let me see if I can just move it slightly here. Give me a second here. So she sits right, oh, there it is. Do you see that stool, that empty spot? That's where she sits. So she does get some backlight from the Balina lights, and then she gets a little bit of off light from the light I have up in the corner. But mainly what she gets is the light from the east-facing window. So while I'm talking about that, one of the questions that was asked in the comments is, if you don't grow with grow lights, what's the best light to put these guys in? And the answer is it depends. But you cannot go wrong in an east-facing window or a west-facing window because they're going to get bright light all day. The key is, as with most orchids, I know there are some cattleyas that can take direct sun, vandas, that kind of thing, but in general, you don't want them having direct light. So if all you have is, say, a south-facing window, then what you'll want to do is put a sheer curtain or something to kind of protect the strong rays coming in. But most of them do live under the Balina lights. The rest of them do live as close to the east-facing window as possible. -1, my Schilleriana right here, that I really thought was on the way down. I bought this from Yoshi at Plants and Other Things. He has a online shop called Orchids by the Lake. But this leaf right here at one point was very shriveled, and I thought it was going by. But I changed her setup because initially she was just an all bark. Well, initially she was on a mount. She had a partner. The partner has since decided to sever ties with the world, and I put her in the bark thinking with her being on a mount, wet, dry, that thing. Well, that's when that leaf was really, really shriveling. She had one root. So I put her in this pot here, and I know the pot looks rather large, but there is just a little bit of moss throughout the pot. And once I did that, this right here happened. These roots started really taking off, and she's got this aerial root, and this root is actually in the pot coming out, but let's show you here. So she has more roots as well inside the pot. So that myth that if roots are growing out of a pot, they don't like the media is a fabrication. In general, there can be a reason, like if your media is gone, obviously nothing wants to grow in dirt, right? As far as our orchids go. But Phalaenopsis are just known for aerial roots. Okay, so think about them in the wild. They're grabbing onto trees and such. But she is doing really well, and she actually grows in the bedroom that I'm currently using as kind of a overflow for my orchids. And she sits in a southwest facing window. So now that the temperatures are kind of cooling off a little bit here in Colorado, I say cooling off, they're still in the high 90s, low hundreds. But what I'll do is she sits on the top shelf, and there are some orchids around her. Again, I'll post a picture of her spot, but they kind of shade her from any direct sun, if that makes sense. But I'm just rather pleased that she still has this leaf, and they're all nice and firm. This is the leaf that she grew for me this season. I know she's tiny, but she is a new one. I've had her since July of last year, and of course she went through that stress of getting unmounted, putting it in bark for a few months, and then changing her to this setup. So hopefully she'll continue to grow new leaves and roots, and eventually one day we'll get to see those beautiful Schilleriana blooms. And my Japonica here, so this is the Phalaenopsis, formerly known as Sideria japonica. This season she has grown this leaf and this leaf she's finishing off. Now she does have these two roots here on the outside that we can see, but she's got more on the inside, and she is also in a similar setup. However, the bark that is in here is large and medium bark with moss throughout, because they do like a quicker wet dry cycle. And in my research on this one, it is said that they prefer a drier winter, so similar to a dendrobium's winter rest. Obviously I'm not going to keep her totally dry, but they do prefer a drier, cooler winter rest. So where she sits, it's a pretty cool spot already. And excuse me, so this winter I will be giving her less water to see if I can get some blooms next year, because she has enough space for at least one bloom. And this is the one that I bought, one, because she's just got a beautiful, beautiful bloom, but two, my son is stationed in Okinawa with the Marines, and so it was kind of fitting that I got that one. And then we have my Japan evergreen here, who is getting ready to grow herself out of this pot. Look at all those beautiful roots in there. Look at this. Is that not beautiful? Now, as you can see, they do need to be watered, how dry they are. Now, if you read about these, it will say that they prefer to stay damp. Do not let them dry out. They need lots of humidity, all of that good stuff. Well, if you read that, they say that about most orchids. In my environment, my humidity generally does not get that high, 40%, 35-40%. Some days, like today, it's up to 48%, but on average, it is between 35 and 40%. I was keeping them damp at all times, and I noticed that when I did that, things started to get droopier, meaning the roots were dying off, because even though you're watering, if your leaves still stay droopy, this one's just droopy because of the way it's hanging, it's stiff. But if you have dead roots and you keep putting water in here and the water is not going into the plant is still going to stay droopy. So I let everyone dry out completely, and then I just water them when they are dry. I know that goes against what is in the internet scrolls, but that's what I do here in my environment. Now, if you live in a more humid area, you can obviously get away with a different type of media mix. Mine is in bark and sphagnum moss, 90% of them. There are some that are in all moss and some that are in almost all bark. Some sphagnum moss maybe at the bottom. But since I've done that, this lovely lady here has continued to produce and extend her spikes. So here is the latest bloom on that one, and I don't know if the kind of chartreuse green is going to show through. Maybe if I just do it that way, it might look more yellow on the screen, but she is kind of more like a yellowish green, just very, very pretty. And then we have this other bud here getting ready to pop open. She has grown this leaf and this leaf, and then of course this one here had started as this bud was starting to open up. And when I got her, she had one spike, which is this one right here, and I have grown this second spike here, and this is her third blooming off of this spike. So I'm pretty happy with that. Let's see, move that. Let's do this one next. We'll talk about that one last. This one is the Phalaenopsis Ebonensis that came with this spike right, let's see if we can see it. See if I can put my hand right there. With that spike, she came with that, and it was rather low. So they're very slow growers, so it's going to be a few more months before she puts a bloom out for me. But what she has done is she has grown this beautiful leaf here, aerial roots. And then again, we have aerial roots. Oh, she doesn't like the media she's in. Look at all the roots inside the pot though. Look at that. Again, mainly bark with some sphagnum moss spread throughout. And she sits on these rocks that I keep a little bit of water at the bottom, just kind of for that additional humidity. And going on the lines of humidity, you can create microclimates. So even if your ambient excuse me, humidity in your home is only 35-40%, grouping orchids together or creating little small humidity environments around your orchid will help increase the humidity around the orchid, not necessarily in the entire room. So that's another trick that you can use. And then we have the Inscriptiosis, which I'm sure I'm saying that wrong and been saying it wrong since I got her. Now she does have a little bit of a deficiency, and if you can look right here, I believe that's magnesium. So I have started increasing her magnesium to she gets it twice a month instead of once a month. One time she'll get CalMag, and then the second magnesium dose will be the just Epsom salt soak. So she is starting to green up a little bit, and this damage right here is from where she touched the metal rack and it destroyed the leaf, and she got a little bit too much sun one day, so that's kind of that. Let me show you this bloom. Isn't that just the cutest? She is so cute, and she kind of has, to me, she kind of has like that burnt plastic smell, so it's not like a really nice fragrance. So luckily it's not strong, you have to really get in there and smell it, but it does smell like when plastic is burning. But I just love that. Isn't that pretty? That splash in the lip. And with her, because of the way she's growing, I do have her sitting up on something so I can see her blooms. Now, she came with 2 spikes. So she came with this spike and this spike right here. And she's grown this spike, which has bloomed several times. And then this is her latest spike here that's got a bloom getting ready to develop here. So she's doing rather well. Now her roots, you can't really see them too well, but you can kind of see kind of right in there. But she's mainly moss and small bark. So there's less small bark and more moss. And it's just because she's such a big orchid that I want to keep her damp longer. So because she's in a larger pot, I put more moss and it seems to work. And, oh, I thought I saw another spike coming, but no. But look at all the aerial roots on her. She is just lovely, just lovely. And I forgot to tell you guys about Yapon. So her scent, again, to me, has like a cleaning product scent. For those of you who know about Mr. Clean, it has kind of that, the yellow one that has the lemony flavor. It kind of has that lemony clean scent, lemon pledge. Cleaning supply type scent to it. Not bad, not bad. It is not overwhelming, it is not strong, and it could be that they're still young plants and that's why their fragrance isn't as overwhelming as you hear about them. Or it could just be, like I said before, there's something wrong with my nose. Which, since my nose is always draining, that could possibly be a thing. Now let's talk about a species and an offspring. So, this, let me take her out carefully, is my Ebonensis that has bloomed for me. She bloomed in, I believe it was November, December time frame. And after the bloom, this is kind of the leaf that I was left with. And she is starting on this beautiful one here. And look at that crystallining on the leaf as the lights hit it. Oh. This one right here, if she were to never bloom again, I would not be upset because I absolutely adore the mottled leaves as well as these roots. These roots are very different than what we're used to seeing. So this Phalaenopsis root, look at this one. Do you see the difference? Let me show you a little bit closer here. Look how flat it is. Look at that. It is flat. It's not round. It's a flat, and it's very, very silver. So it's very hard to tell if when they're in the pot, if they are wet or not, because sometimes they don't really turn the nice green color. Sometimes they almost have a black shade to them. But she has this root here that has grown out of this hole and is growing under the pot. And we have root tips on all of them. But she is just gorgeous. Now she has more bark than moss. Again, don't want to keep her too wet. She does live under the Balina lights. And give me a second while I concentrate putting her back in because I don't want to damage any of these roots, because I found if I don't do it this way, the roots will get caught into these holes, and I almost broke a root doing that. But these roots here are also a lot more firm than our Phalaenopsis roots, because had I done that with the rounded Phalaenopsis root, this one would have snapped. It didn't, so I was very happy. Now right now, because she's growing the leaf, I do have her on the edge of the Balina shelf, so she's not directly under, and that's kind of how I position them under the light. Those that need more light, I put them more right under the light, whereas those that need more of the dappled light, I have them on the further end, so they're not getting that strong light, if that makes sense. Then we have the Mini Mark, who has bloomed for me twice since I got her back in July of 2021. She has all of these beautiful just roots in here. Aren't they gorgeous? Oh, I just love it. And then she's got this one that's grown out. We've got one peeking out here. And then, of course, we've got the aerial root right there. And then she's got a new root starting. But this, one of her parents, is the Ebonensis. The other one is the Micronova. So the Mini Mark. Now, my Mini Mark does not have a lot of the modeling, but let me see if we can see it. I don't know if you can see that on camera, but if you really kind of look, you can see a little slight modeling on the leaves, but not that much. Like this one here has a little bit more. I'm not sure if you can really see that or not. But some mini marks that I've seen do have more modeling than this one. And last but not least, and here's where I need your help, guys. So this one I got from Yoshi in, oh, okay, so this one I actually got this year in April of 2022. So I apologize, I lied. So this is the Phalaenopsis Ebonensis that, again, I got from Yoshi. And this leaf, when it came, it was already kind of light, but it was fine. And then today when I was getting these girls down to film, and then I'll water them once I'm done, this leaf came off. And then this leaf here is kind of doing the same thing. So any advice, guys, on what I can do to help encourage some new growth, leaf growth? Now she's got roots. So there are roots in the pot. I mean, she's got one here you can see, and she had plenty of them when I put her in the pot. Am I keeping her too dry? Am I giving her too much fertilizer? I'm not sure. If anybody can tell me kind of what's going on right here, because she is senescing from the leaf joint and not from the leaf tip. If she was senescing from the leaf tip, then I would assume that's just natural dieback. And if it was on a bottom, but it's on one of the top leaves. And I don't believe, now I could have, but I don't believe I've gotten water in the crown. So, and the crown itself, I mean, looks fine. I don't see any rotting going on. So I'm not sure. So if you can leave comments below on what you think might be happening to my Ebonensis here, let me know. Also, if you have further questions on any of the summer bloomers that we've seen so far, you can leave that down below as well. And then I will post the next video with the rest of the girls. And some of them, most of them are going to be hybrids. So there'll be some larger ones, not just our little small ones here, which the Ebonensis, the Inscriptiosis, and of course the Ballinas are going to become really big girls. And fingers crossed, my Schilleriana over there is going to become a big girl one day. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate you stopping by. And again, leave in the comments anything that I did not finish my thought on, or I started on a thought and went down a separate rabbit hole. Let me know that. Again, that's why they're there, so we can communicate. And I will see you on part 2.